Welcome to this solo episode of Talk Healing to Me. I'm your host, Karen Dwyer, and today we're diving into the biggest takeaways from my conversation with James Whittaker, Win the Day. So this episode left me buzzing with ideas and practical tools, and I'm excited to share them with you. So James's journey, as you'll hear, was so filled with anxiety that he went to a best-selling author and global speaker and is nothing short of inspiring. But what's even more powerful are the strategies that he's developed to win his day every day. So today I'm going to share some of those strategies and my own thoughts on them and how you can apply them to your own life right away. The Talk Healing to Me podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and does not constitute medical or professional advice. The views expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect those of the host or the production team. Always consult your physician or a qualified healthcare provider regarding any questions you have about a medical condition or health objectives. Listening to this podcast does not create a doctor-patient or coach-client relationship. So the first one is the power of thought and visualization. So one of James's key insights is that the brain doesn't know any difference between a real memory and an imagined future. I mean, honestly, when I think about these things, I have a lot of thoughts and ideas of visualizing, and you hear talks about manifesting and all of these things, and then I always hear it's making sure that you repeat it daily. Honestly, I don't do that. When I remember to do it, I'm like, okay, force myself to see it, but it definitely does take practice. But really, the fact that the brain doesn't know the difference between a real memory and an imagined one, let's just let that sink in for a second. This means that when or if we do visualize success, you're actually training your brain to recognize that moment as something familiar and achievable. But let's be real, visualizing isn't always easy, especially when you're feeling stuck. So here's a practical approach. Start small. Pick one specific moment or goal that you're working towards and close your eyes and walk yourself through it step by step. Even if you want to do it now, if it's safe for you to do so if you're not driving, but maybe if you are, take a second. If you are going through it step by step, what's around you? What are you wearing? How do you feel? The more sensory detail that you add, the more powerful the visualization becomes. And so this small daily practice can make a really big impact. Now, you'll hear in an episode a little bit later on with one of our brilliant guests how you can make that into a really, really easy thing to do daily. And it certainly helped me in my own practice, which honestly I was really, really rubbish at for years, not just a little while, years before it actually embedded. So if you're not there yet, just like myself, have no fear. It is possible. If I can do it, you definitely can. So make sure you stay listening to us. The second thing with James's episode, and it really struck me again, was deciding to win or automatically lose. So this one sounds simple, but I think it's quite profound. So if you don't make the decision to win the day, you've already made the decision to lose. So it's that clear. Every morning, James asks himself, what's it going to take to win today? And he commits to that. The shift here is taking ownership of your day before it takes ownership of you. And I'll be honest with you, a lot of the time before I got into what I'm doing, I would let the day, what the kids needed, school, or anything that kind of threw me off piste, then the day would just go astray and the day will be gone. By the time I get to the evening time, I'd just be wishing to go to bed. I think this is really powerful that, as soon as you're out of the bed, that you can ask yourself, what's one thing that I can do today that will make this a win? So it's not about doing 100 things. It just might be one. And it might be, don't lose my temper with my kids, or maybe it's cook a clean meal, or maybe it's having a tough conversation that you've been avoiding, or doing a little workout, or maybe just getting into nature. But win that moment and you'll build momentum for the rest of the day. You go after the low-hanging fruit, not long-hanging fruit. Christ, maybe I'm talking about bananas. The third one was a 3 daily wins. So I love this concept because it's really simple and actionable. So instead of writing a massive to-do list that feels overwhelming, you can pick 3 things. Now, honestly, after just talking about one thing, I would stick with one thing until you manage that, and then you can move on to 3. But, I think it is really at the start of the day making that decision. What is the one thing? And then bring it on to the 3 things. So you're not aiming for perfection, you're aiming for progress. It is amazing how much more focused you get and intentional the days become when you start making a decision earlier on in the day. This episode of Talk Healing to Me is sponsored by Clean Boss, the world's most powerful botanical disinfectant and cleaner, created by the one and only Joy Mangano, the legendary inventor behind the Miracle Mop and the woman whose story inspired the movie Joy. And let me just say this, her story saved me. Years ago, at one of my lowest points, sick, uncertain, and starting over, I kept watching that movie on repeat. It reminded me that resilience is real, that you can rise, that there has to be a better way. And that phrase, there has to be a better way, became a guiding light for me. And it's why Clean Boss feels so aligned. Because let's be honest, most so called green cleaners, they don't kill germs. And the ones that do are loaded with toxins, with fumes and warning labels. But Clean Boss is different. Formulated by Joy herself and powered by nature with a little help from Pitbull. Yes, that Pitbull. Clean Boss is a botanically based disinfectant that kills 99.9% of viruses, germs, and bacteria. And it's safe enough to use on your kitchen counters, your baby's high chair, or literally anywhere in your home. No rinsing required. No scary ingredients. It's powerful, safe, and a perfect example of what this podcast is all about. Smart, everyday decisions that add up to real healing over time. So if you've ever found yourself thinking, there has to be a better way, this is it. Check it out at getcleanboss.com/Karen. Because healing starts with the small things, and Clean Boss makes those things count. So the fourth one, and there's 7 altogether, just to say, the fourth one that stood out for me was dance with discomfort. Now, this one's a biggie. So instead of running from discomfort, James encourages us to dance with it. So I don't know if you've ever heard the thing that zebras do, that when they are in danger or just after they've done something really big, they literally shake all of the energy out of them. Or it's buffalo that if they see a storm, they don't run away from it, they run towards it. So it's making ourselves be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And I think that's very powerful because it's easy to get scared and maybe procrastinate or put things off or not look at something. But I suppose we're all going to face challenges, so why not get familiar with them? He shared a story about the event where everything went wrong, from a leg cramp to spilling water on his phone. But instead of spiraling, he took a deep breath and focused on what he could control and then made it through. I think controlling the controllables is a powerful practice. You know, I often talk about with my clients, you know, that we're all juggling a lot of balls and it's just making sure that the glass ones don't drop. All the other ones, I mean, let some of them fall. It's okay. One of the practices when something does come up is ask, how can I dance with this? How can I reframe it as an opportunity to grow? And what things can I let go instead of trying to do everything perfectly? So it's not necessarily run away and it's not easy, but it's definitely a skill worth practicing. Now, the fifth one, not necessarily a fan of, which is the cold shower. I'm starting to see their power for sure. At the end of my shower, I'll turn it down to a little bit colder. But it's more about building that resilience and building the mental resilience that you're willing to step into the discomfort, like the point before, so you can tell your brain that you can do hard things. So it is a very powerful message to send to yourself. And even if you don't do a cold shower, you can start off with 5 seconds at the end, or even just a little. Maybe it's at the beginning and then you turn it warm. So it's not about the shower. It's really about training your mind to handle the challenges. Number 6, the poverty mindset versus the success mindset. So this one is straight from Napoleon Hill, but James put it in modern terms. He said, if you're not consciously thinking about success, your brain will default to fear and doubt and scarcity. And it's like leaving a garden unattended, weeds will grow. Now, I have to be honest, I don't know about all of you, but I definitely have days where I am not in the success mindset. And I think I've definitely heard myself saying before, oh God, this is going to be whatever way it's going to be. And I think once we decide that, it then happens, or it can become, and our brains are so powerful. So I think giving ourselves the opportunity to start each day by feeding your mind with something positive. So it might be a motivational podcast. It might be practicing gratitude like we do in our private group, or it might be a chapter from an empowering book, or even a few minutes of journaling can shift your thoughts from scarcity to success. So yeah, what's possible for me today? It's kind of linked back to the points before. So last but not least, now this isn't just a vision board that he talked about. This was John Assaraf's achievement board. Now, if you're watching this on video, I have one of them over there. And any time before I set a new goal, I will always do an achievement board because of what James taught me. So he introduced the idea of this, John Assaraf. So it's not about future goals. It's everything you've already achieved. So it really shifts the perspective and builds the confidence and momentum. So a really easy way that I do it is you take a blank sheet of paper. I like to get different colors, but you don't have to do that. I'm just a bit of a child when it comes to that. And write down maybe 10, 15 things that you've achieved in your life already. And it doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's graduating school, or maybe it's having a tricky conversation with someone, or maybe it's a medal you got when you were 5. It doesn't matter, but it has to be important to you. Particularly put down the things that were challenging and put it somewhere that you can see it. I have one at home on the inside of my wardrobe so that when I am getting dressed, it's there. And on tough days, you can take a glance at the board and remind yourself how far you've come. Ready to turn inspiration into transformation? Join the Inner Circle Book Club, where we explore life-changing books that spark energy, confidence, and joy. Each month, we read, reflect, and challenge ourselves with exclusive coaching, powerful insights, and engaging discussions. It's more than just reading, it's about real change. Join us with the link in the show notes and get ready to start your next chapter today. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Let's grow together. The key message from James is simple. Winning the day doesn't happen by accident. I wish it did. It's a decision that you make daily, and it's about taking action on what's within your control and training your mind to seek progress, not perfection. And it is one of the things that we practice all the time inside of our clients. In fact, every week we celebrate our wins and we celebrate the fails, because I think when you can become friends of failure, you don't have this perfection mindset and done over perfect every single time. So when we celebrate those wins, we kind of allow our vulnerability to show up. We allow ourselves to do it imperfectly. A friend of mine is writing a book at the moment and she was getting stuck at a particular chapter about halfway through. And the advice I gave to her, and it's much the same for everyone, is allow yourself to do a really crappy first draft. And that doesn't matter if you're writing a book or you're starting an exercise program or you're going on a date, whatever it might be. Let yourself fail at it. Give yourself permission to not be perfect, because when you do that, you're giving yourself the ability to show up exactly as you are and exactly as you aren't. And that perfect imperfection actually brings your humanity to the forefront. Then you don't have to rely on yourself doing the perfect thing every single time, because let's face it, that's exhausting. And it's definitely not going to help your health or your well-being if you're concentrating on white-knuckling life and getting everything at a 10 out of 10 standard. So if there's one thing that you take away from today and this mini-sode, let it be that choose your wins, visualize your success, and lean into that discomfort. You are so much stronger than you think. So start small. Decide on one win today, visualize yourself achieving it, and take that first step. I would love to know what that first step is. Either DM me on I am Karen Dwyer or Talk Healing to Me Pod, or if you want to email us, the details are down in the show notes. But really, you've got this. And I really appreciate you listening to this mini-sode of Talk Healing to Me. If you found it helpful, please subscribe, share it with your friends. You never know when one person hears the right piece of advice that can change the trajectory of their health, of their life, of people around. So share, and we'd love to hear your biggest takeaway from the episode or one win that you're going to commit to after this. Until then, or until that time, keep showing up for yourself and keep talking, healing, and being compassionate too. Bye for now. Thank you to our sponsors of this episode. You can visit getcleanboss.com/Karen. And also a thank you to our video and podcast producer and editor, Aoife McNamara at Imagine Media. Thank you.